So the first question, how do we use the Malik and Malik concept to answer the question about if Allah is just, why do bad things happen? Yani, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is adil, why do bad things happen in the world? So look, first the answer that I give in the beginning is that adl, dhulm does not apply to Allah. Dhulm does not apply to Allah, because dhulm by definition is at-ta'addi fi haqqil ghayr, when you violate somebody else's right. And since Allah owns everything, as we've demonstrated based on barahin and qati'ah, that Allah is Malik, and Malik is wajib al-wujud. Because he's wajib al-wujud, he's ghani and mutlaq, and because he's ghani and mutlaq, he is Malik and Malik, and he can do whatever he wants. Therefore the term of dhulm is not applicable. Yes, but just to quickly answer this question, this is called the problem of evil. What is it called? Problem of evil, or you could say the problem of suffering, is called in philosophy it's called theodicy. Theodicy. So usually I have six points, tablighi chair number, to answer this question in more detail. I mean, the Malik and Malik is quite self-evident, and that does answer more or less everything. But even then, inshallah ta'ala, we'll just go slightly in somewhat detail on this question, because I do think this is an important question. Right, okay. So this is the question of theodicy, or the question of problem of evil, or problem of suffering. These are different names. So this question was pioneered by a Greek philosopher. I forgot his name. Subhanallah. Khair, he's not gonna, I forgot his name. But he was a Christian philosopher in time of Greek, and he had this sort of narazgi with God. He was upset with God. You get those people too, they believe in God but they're naraz, they're upset with God. So he came out with this paradoxical statement, or conundrum, as he calls it, a question, that if God is all merciful and all powerful, then why do we see suffering in the world? If God is all merciful and all powerful, then why do we see suffering in the world? Because if He's all merciful, then there shouldn't be any suffering. And if He's all powerful, then He should be able to remove the suffering. So I usually have 6 points regarding this. The first point I have is, this is a misrepresentation of God. Yes? Well, of the Islamic God anyway, at least. No Muslim believes God is only all merciful and all powerful. Does any Muslim believe this? No Muslim believes God is only all merciful and all powerful. These are two of His sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, among many other. As we mentioned in our discourse, مفهوم الإله في العقيدة الإسلامية وأثره في مناقشة الإلحاد المعاصر, that the main concept of mafhum of ilah is wajib al-wujud, ghani mutlaq, and malik and malik. And then the other attributes that come, ar-Rahman, ar-Rahim, al-Hakim, etc., they connect with wajib al-wujud. So the first point is that this question by the atheist, or by our interlocutor who says that if God is all powerful and all merciful, why do we have suffering? Our answer is that this is a misrepresentation of God. No Muslim believes God is only all powerful and all merciful. These are only two of His attributes. And the reality is, this answer is sufficient, because the premise of the entire argument is based on a false premise. The entire question of theodicy, or the entire question of the problem of evil, is based on a false premise, which is God is only all powerful and all merciful. So we could just say your entire premise is false, khalas, answer done. But khair, we will carry on answering inshallah. So that's the first point. The second point that we usually say is that the onus is upon the atheist to prove that every type of suffering is bad. This is, I mean, the atheists need to prove this, that every type of suffering is bad. Okay? Because from experience and mushahada and tajriba, we see that sometimes when you go through suffering, you become a better person. When halat, as they say, when halat, and you go through trials and tribulations, you become a better person, you become closer to Allah, you become better towards your neighbors, people, etc., etc. So that's number 2. Tamam? Point number 3. This question of theodicy is against the concept of free will. Let me say that again. This question of theodicy, meaning theodicy is a fancy word, a problem of evil. This question of theodicy is against free will. Is against free will. Why is it against free will? Because when the atheist asks, if God is all powerful and all merciful, why is there evil and suffering in the world? This question implies they should only be good. They should only be good. If they should only be good, then this implies that people can't do evil. And if people can't do evil, this means people have no choice to do evil. And if people have no choice to do evil, this means people don't have free will. Do you see? Right? I mean, there's a lot of muqaddimah sughra, muqaddimah al-kubra down here. It's connected, but you understand how it's connected. Why is it against free will? The reason is against free will because you only can do good. You have to have the free will to do evil. And the world is full of evil. So that's clearly not the case. Question number, that's 3. What point is that number? 3. Point number 4, in answer to this question. I mean, our discussion before, that answers everything, but we're just making it more specific. Point number 4, this question restricts the omnipotence of God. This question, it restricts the omnipotence of God. Meaning, God is qadir. And Allah can do everything that is possible. Okay? I need to qualify this. Allah can do everything that is possible. Impossibility is not connected with Allah's qudra. Remember this. Innahu ala kulli shay'in qadir. When we say Allah has power over everything, what do we mean by over everything? Ala kulli shay'in mumkin. As I explained, what does mumkin mean? Whose existence and non-existence is equally perceived. Or jaiz, not the jaiz, not jaiz, yes? Jaiz yani, whose existence and non-existence is equally possible. So when we say Allah has power over everything, what do we mean? He has power over everything that is possible. Impossibility is not connected with Allah's qudra. So for example, some people atheists ask, can God create such a stone that he cannot lift? Can God create such a stone that he cannot lift? What does this question imply? Can God become unable? Can God become ajiz? Allah becoming ajiz is impossible. So the question is impossible. You see? It's like saying, can you draw a square triangle? No, you can't. You're ajiz. No, you're not. Square triangle by definition is impossible. So something that is rationally impossible, not doing that thing doesn't make you ajiz. Again, something that is rationally impossible, something that cannot be conceived in the mind, is inconceivable, unfathomable, unimaginable. Yes? If you can't do that thing, it doesn't make you ajiz. You only become ajiz when you can do something, it is rationally possible, and then you can't do it. For example, you can go to London, you have the means, etc., but then you are unable to go. That's you become ajiz. Okay? I just wanted to qualify that statement. So again, what point are we on? Let me go back to the answer. Point number 4. Asking the question of theodicy or the problem of evil or suffering, yes, it is restricting God's omnipotence, because God can do anything that is possible. But when you ask the question, why is there suffering and evil, meaning you want only God to create good. You want God only to create good. You don't want God to exercise His infinite qudra. Well, God's not going to listen to you. Yes? Just because you don't want suffering and evil, that's not going to restrict God's ultimate qudra. Number 4. Point number 5. Is everybody with me, yes? Are you following the chain? Point number 5, there are principles found in the Quran and Sunnah which postulate the reason for why we see suffering and evil in the world. There are reasons. Maybe not reason for everything, but there are principles. For example, Allah says, ظَهَرَ الْفَسَادُ فِي الْبَرِّ وَالْبَحْرِ بِمَا كَسْبَتْ أَيْدِي النَّاسِ. The corruption that we see on land and sea is because of the actions that we have acquired. وَمَا أَصَابَكُم مِّن مُّصِيبَةٍ فَبِمَا كَسَبَتْ أَيْدِيكُمْ. What calamity falls is because of your own actions. وَيَعْفُوَ عَنْ كَثِيرٍ. And Allah forgives most of your sins. Yes? Sometimes it's a test. وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ وَنَقْصٍ مِّنَ الْأَمْوَالِ. So there's a concept of test, there's a concept of your own evils, sins, etc. Yes? That's point number 5. Now this is where the main point comes. And this point number 6, I break this down into 2 or 3 points. Point number 6, yeah? So point number 6 is a bit long because there's tashkil in here too. Yes? Point number 6 is this. And before we answer point number 6, there's a question. Yeah? Dakhil muqaddar, as you have it, the ibara, when it comes in and you have to answer. Is this, that the atheist will say, okay, you've explained that there are reasons that there's suffering and evil in the world because of a test or because of people's sins. But then how do you explain a 5-year-old child dying of cancer? Yes? How do you explain that? Millions of people died in a tsunami. Many of them were children and innocent. What test is that for them? Their parents were non-Muslims, so that can't be tested. Yes. So why is that? So we answered that when it comes to these specific cases, we trust Allah. We trust Allah's wisdom. What do? We trust Allah's wisdom. You can say, well, yeah, so that's a cop-out, isn't it? Just trust the Almighty. You say, yes, that's exactly what we're saying. Why? Because this is what you do on a daily basis. This is what you do on a daily basis. On a daily basis, the atheist delegates his trust on high authority, a higher wisdom, yes or no? When it comes to medicine, the doctor prescribes a medicine to the atheist doesn't know anything about medicine, trusts the medicine, takes the medicine, life depends on it. Sitting inside the plane, the pilot makes an announcement about turbulence. He doesn't ask any questions, he fastens his seatbelt, he doesn't have any wisdom regarding turbulence of piloting. He trusts the hikmah and the wisdom of the pilot. The only difference is that you delegate your hikmah and you delegate your trust to the hikmah of creation. We delegate our trust to the hikmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And just because you don't know the hikmah doesn't mean there is no hikmah. Absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. Just because you don't know the hikmah for a specific case doesn't mean there is no hikmah for that case. You see? And also, you trying to know the hikmah for every single evil is claiming deity. You are trying to be God. And that's not going to happen. Because Al-Hakim is only one. Al-Hakim is only one. There's only one being that knows the wisdom for everything. And you trying to know the wisdom for every specific suffering and evil is a tacit, egotistical, egocentric claim to deity and godhood. You want to become God. That's not going to happen. Because you're a contingent, limited, weak, feeble being who has a beginning, who has an end. You had no beginning, you were in non-existence, and you will be rendered into non-existence, 6 feet buried, and you'll be forgotten. So you can't claim that you want to know the wisdom of everything. Do you see? So point number 6 is, yes, we are trusting God in those wisdoms of those things. And everybody does that. Everybody trusts in high authority, even when they don't understand anything. The only difference is Muslims, they place the trust in the Wajibul Wujud, Khaliqus Samawati wal Ard, and you place your trust in humans and creations, weak and feeble humans. Tamam? And this in the Quran, Surah Al-Kahf, Musa alayhi salam and Khazir alayhi salam, the story is evident to this. Musa alayhi salatu salam saw certain things. And as a Nabi, he couldn't stay quiet. But afterwards he was explained, yes, the wisdom why Khazir alayhi salam did these things. So sometimes because we don't understand the wisdom, doesn't mean there is no wisdom. Yes, and we have a very finite and a limited understanding. We look towards one direction, we are oblivious to the other direction. Right, okay, these are 6 points, khulasa. But the short answer is this. And this is an epistemic answer. Epistemic answer, our understanding of God. So look, we have atheist and a Muslim. Who's asking this question? Atheist. Does atheist believe in a God? No. Does a Muslim believe in a God who's only all-powerful and all-loving? No. So atheist doesn't believe in any God. A Muslim doesn't believe in this God, so there's no problem. There is no problem. This problem has been created. Because the atheist, why are you worried? You don't even believe in a God. And we Muslims, we're not worried because we don't believe in the God that you're representing. Based on the God that we believe in, there is no problem with evil because we believe that God to also be Al-Hakim, Al-Alim, etc. Fahimtum? Did that make sense? Yes? Okay.